Welcome back to Extra Shot, the podcast spilling the funniest stories in sport. I'm Jack Rivlin and Zachary Sweeney-Lynch is back.
Hello, Jack. I'm
Hello.
back.
How was the jazz festival?
No jazz festival this time, sadly. Just on my headphones in Mallorca on the beach.
Lovely. Right, on the pod today, Jermaine Defoe's backseat rendezvous, Katie Price scrapping with beloved broadcasters, and the meth dealer doing pilates with Reece James. Looking forward to that one. Obviously, the Champions League's back.
It is.
Good to see Aston Villa just absolutely pounding young boys. Not 90.
In the Wankdorf Stadium.
Yeah, in the world famous Wankdorf Stadium. 3-0.
Yeah, great result.
Harry Kane seemed to bang in a load of goals for Bayern, as if that means anything anymore.
Yeah, he scored 4, right? And I think he scored 3 at the weekend as well. So where was this Harry Kane at the Euros?
Do you want to kick us off with some stories away from the grand stage of the Champions League and in the seedier underbelly of football, perhaps?
Yeah, so Jermaine Defoe has had quite an exotic love life since he hung up his boots. So back in 2022, he had a glamorous £200,000 wedding in Hertfordshire. It was a very plush affair. They sold exclusive image rights to OK magazine, who did a front page spread on it. It did later turn out, though, that the wedding was a sham and there was no record of it in the marriage registry office. So it turned out that they had fallen out and decided to just act out the wedding in order to cash in the OK magazine deal.
Hang on. The wedding was 200 grand.
Yeah, and I assume that much of that was paid for by the OK magazine deal.
But would you save more money if you just didn't get married?
I
Maybe
guess so.
OK pay for the wedding.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they just wanted to have a good party.
Or you get a little bit on top, maybe.
Yeah.
Just feel like if they just hadn't got married, they would have saved 200 grand. Maybe it's too late.
It was
Sunk cost.
I don't know. Maybe Jermaine Defoe's just a romantic guy. He'd always dreamed of
being on the cover of OK magazine
with his coming out of the thing with confetti and driving away in a vintage Aston Martin with tin cans dangling behind it.
Since he was a little boy, that was his dream.
Yeah. Anyway, that obviously turned out to be not a real wedding. And in the aftermath, Jermaine enjoyed a fling with one of the wedding guests.
Okay. Not at the wedding.
Not at the wedding, but shortly afterwards. Right. And he then hooked up with a wedding planner who ended up moving in with him.
The wedding planner?
I'm not sure if it was his wedding planner, but it was a wedding planner. So, maybe he just likes weddings.
Yeah, he's clearly a hopeless romantic. Sort of at home watching Love Actually with a box of tissues and some dark chocolate.
Yeah, he's a romantic guy. Anyway, just a month after his wedding, in inverted commas, the tabloids reported that Jermaine had been messaging a nurse and, in their words, begging her for sex on the backseat of his Range Rover.
Right. That story took a bit of a turn.
Yeah. This is Jermaine Defoe. So that was kind of a relatively minor tabloid story at the time. But the reason that I am now bringing it up is that there was another strange story in the tabloids this week. So they've got hold of photos of Jermaine meeting up with a woman in the car park of a golf club in Hertfordshire. So they don't exactly say what's happened, but they say he enjoyed a 20-minute rendezvous with a mystery woman in the backseat of his motor. Which I think is quite clear what they're insinuating there. So they say they've spoken to an onlooker, which is presumably one of their grubby hacks with a long lens, who told them she turned up in her car, parked and walked over to his and got in. I've no idea what they were doing, but they were on their back seat together for around 15 to 20 minutes. At one point, a jacket appeared to have been tied between the two headrests of the front seats. It was all very odd.
Right.
So
why? Yeah, I guess they don't have the evidence to fully say what they want to say, so they're just like,
which is Jermaine Defoe into dogging?
Yeah, I suppose.
Say it for them.
I don't know. Just be clear, there's no evidence or suggestion from this podcast that he is.
There is,
but I think that's what they're insinuating.
That's what the tabloids filthy tabloids would,
Yeah,
would,
those
would dare
scumbags.
to suggest.
Are you still an onlooker if you've had a tip off that someone's going to be there and you've been waiting all night under a tarpaulin with your long lens? Like, at what point does an onlooker
covered in like brambles and
yeah, well, like in Dad's army. Been waiting there all night, shivering, box of donuts. You're not an onlooker, mate. That's a stakeout.
That's just what members of the public do.
Yeah, I was just trying to enjoy the golf club car park for 9 hours with my camera, which was on a tripod.
There's obviously there's two accounts of this happening in the
backseat
tabloids.
rendezvous.
Backseat rendezvous. I think that the one with the nurse didn't actually come to happen. I think she turned him down and
So they met up. She got in his car and then he begged her for sex, which is tabloid language for just like.
I don't know if they met up. I think they were just texting with the nurse.
Oh, and he said, "Can it be in my car?"
Yeah.
So they are suggesting that he's got a car thing.
Yeah. They are suggesting.
We are not.
Yeah, we're just don't shoot the messenger, please, lawyers. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. It would be fun though if they were actually into something really nerdy, like maybe Jermaine Defoe is really into stamp collecting and they were just on the back seat. He was like trading some of his Edward VII stamps for a penny black with Queen Victoria's profile on it.
Well, he's got his folio out, he's just licking his finger to turn the page.
It could be something.
So I'm going to have to tie a jumper up here so they think we're shagging because the truth is just too embarrassing. Job interviews are nerve-wracking at the best of times, but however scary the clammy handshake gets, and even if you can't think of 3 of your biggest weaknesses on the spot, most of us would draw the line at calling our mum and getting her to speak for us in a job interview. But not Adrien Rabiot, the French midfielder, whose very overbearing mum, Veronique, has been negotiating his recent transfer from Juventus to Marseille. And she's been driving a very hard bargain. So according to the French press, he's wanted to leave Juventus for a while. I think they've fallen out. And he's been talking to a number of clubs. But apparently a lot of them ended up just falling out with his mum. So Atletico Madrid broke off talks after Veronique told their sporting director where Adrien will be playing for them. Also, the sporting director's not even the manager.
That's really like a sort of under 10s parent.
Yeah.
Bollocking the coach. Right?
It's also a bit like your mum ringing your new boss and saying that you should like be sitting with the managing director. Yeah. Like Zach will be going to the Stockport conference. To be fair to her, I should say Veronique is also Adrian's agent, which is, a bit more normal, but still quite weird. And apparently she is famed for being an absolute nightmare to deal with. So there was an interview this week with a French agent called Bruno Satan, who said, Veronique quickly tires all the professionals. She's unbearable. So apparently she's just like a bit of a battle axe and just won't let anything drop. I think we've talked about her before, how she just has this long history of sticking her oar in. Yeah. So when France got knocked out of Euro 2020, do you remember they were 3-1 up against Switzerland and then they folded and lost on penalties. And after they got knocked out, she was sitting with all the other teammates' families, and Veronique just turned on the players' families. So she reportedly told Kylian Mbappe's father that his son was arrogant after Mbappe missed a penalty, and she said to him, "It's embarrassing how he struck that for a player of his level. He hit it too lightly. I hope you're going to scold him." Like, she literally just thinks it's under 10.
So all the other families must hate her as well.
Yeah, I think so. She also, on the same night, had a 20-minute argument with Paul Pogba's family, and it only stopped when the security in the stadium intervened and broke them up.
Yeah, I think I saw pictures of this. Actually.
Yeah, there are pictures of her, like, she's like leaning over, like pointing at them, and they're just like, please fuck off. I just love the idea that she thinks that Kylian Mbappe, possibly the best player in the world, needs to be scolded, needs to be bent over his dad's knee and spanked for missing a penalty.
To be honest, I reckon that is what happens in the Rabiot household.
Definitely.
I'm just picturing her and Rabiot going into these negotiations with Diego Simeone and sitting down and her just like handing Adrien an iPad to play Doodle Jump on. Well, Adrien, just play this while I'll deal with the business.
Yeah. Before they go in, she's like licking her thumb and wiping his face. Yeah, she definitely buys his pants for him and sews his name into them. I've got more actually. So she previously wrote a letter to France manager Didier Deschamps demanding that he picked Rabiot more often. Like a long letter. That's not normal from an agent, is it? To the national manager. And when he was at PSG, he fell out with PSG, as everyone does in the end. And she went public. She said, Adrien is a prisoner. He's even held hostage by PSG. Soon it will be dry bread, water and a dungeon. This environment is cruel. They want him to put on his pyjamas at 9 o'clock before the game in front of his TV to go to bed at 11 o'clock. I feel like she wants to be like, and only his mama gets to do that.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly the kind of routine she would enforce.
Mollycoddled shit that she's into. I've got this image of him going round Turin when he's at Juventus and bumping into like Timothy Weah and Douglas Luiz, who are just like out and about, and he's there with his mum shopping. Yeah. You know how like when you're younger, it's the most embarrassing thing that could happen. Yeah. Bump into someone from school and your mum's like taking you clothes shopping. I think all this mollycoddling does explain Adrian's attitude, because last season he complained that he wasn't on the Ballon d'Or shortlist, which like he is a good player and probably has more potential than he's realised, but
he should be nowhere near the Ballon d'Or shortlist.
I just think his maman's been saying he's the next Messi, and he started to believe it.
Do you think Adrien actually likes having her around, or do you think he's just too afraid to say no?
I think maybe it's all he knows. And, you know, it's useful having someone to top up your phone and just, like, give you what's it. Yeah. Definitely, she drives them to the meeting.
She definitely has in her handbag some, like, carrot sticks and her
rice cakes.
Because you know how he gets when he's hungry.
And I picture them, she's driving to this meeting with Simeone and she's in the front driving, he's sitting in the back. No one in the front seat.
He's got his Walkman on.
Yeah. What's it, dust all over him.
Harry Potter audiobook.
By the way, on the Ballon d'Or shortlist, though, you say he shouldn't be on it, and he definitely shouldn't. But there were some quite unexpected names this year. Ademola Lookman's on there, former Fulham player.
Yeah.
Because he's at
Atalanta. He had a great season last year.
And Granit Xhaka's on it. Because he had a great season with Leverkusen. Yeah. But, you know, those 2-3 seasons ago, the idea they'd be on the Ballon d'Or shortlist would have been quite shocking.
It's quite nice seeing some other names on there, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, people were like, oh, it's the weakest list ever. There's no Ronaldo and Messi. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. So the Champions League was back this week, which meant a return of the slightly forced, I would describe it as nauseating, you disagree, banter between Jamie Carragher, Thierry Henry and Micah Richards on the CBS coverage. So fronting all of that, of course, is Kate Abdo, who's become quite a beloved figure over recent years. There's loads of people on social media saying that Thierry Henry's in love with her, because there's all these clips of him like going weak at the knees when she cracks a joke. Yeah. She's got a pretty interesting history though. She's very cultured. So she's got a degree in modern foreign languages. She started out hosting sports news on German TV in German. She's hosted the Ballon d'Or in 4 languages, worked across Europe and now cracked America as well. So, you know, her stock's never been higher. So as she pondered her next steps, she was probably expecting an offer from the BBC to front their Wimbledon coverage, or, you know, to host a chinwag with Prince William at the Chelsea Flower Show. But instead, it looks like Kate will be flying out to Saudi Arabia, covering herself in baby oil and beating the shit out of a disgraced glamour model, while 50,000 baying teenagers live stream it on YouTube. So there are rumours going around that Kate Abdo is being lined up for a Misfits boxing match against Katie Price, who I don't think she should be fighting anyone, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, Abdo's been doing boxing training. So she's married to a guy called Malik Scott, who's Deontay Wilder's trainer. So, you know, she's got some serious pros in her corner.
And she's into boxing. Like she
hosted boxing on Sky Sports, and
she fights as well, doesn't she? She spars.
Yeah, she'd been training for a while.
Because isn't really Misfits often just like a cash grab?
It's just
some
like
influencer. Yeah, basically what it would be if Katie Price did it.
But yeah, exactly. I kind of liken it to, you know, the Victorians would do like bear baiting, where they, you know, it'd be like, how many Alsatians does it take to take down a brown bear? Is that kind of just like getting like...
Yeah, it's a bit Colosseum,
sort of like, yeah. It's kind of like half-starved. Instead of half-starved Alsatians, it's like follower-hungry influencers.
Yeah. Wasn't
and
there one
making
where,
them
like-
fight each other?
I swear they had one recently where like one bloke took on 3 women or something like that. Just like what like a 14-year-old boy would cook
yeah,
up.
Yeah, there was the one. I think it was. I don't think it was Misfits. It was some other kind of horrible entertainment MMA league where they got someone who'd like cheated on their boyfriend to like fight the boyfriend's mum or something. Do you remember?
Yeah. I think that was in Russia.
Yeah.
Russia, they really step it up a notch. There's real jeopardy.
Yeah.
Who won?
I actually can't remember.
I seem to remember the mum was
think
like
the
a
mum
traditional Russian babushka as well. Like,
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think you can question
yeah, these
the
novelty
ethics of
novelty
these
fighting leagues.
Yeah.
There's a spectrum and they get quite weird. But yeah, I guess which is the main point of the story is like Kate Abdo's. That's not the direction I thought her career was going in.
No,
you think she's going to be presenting the Grammys?
Exactly. Yeah, like the Monaco Grand Prix.
But I guess if you want to box, yeah, just don't box.
Yeah.
Katie Price.
Also, I'm not sure whether Katie Price is in training or anything. To be fair, I'm not sure how many nerve endings she's got left in her face, which could be an advantage, but
Probably is. Is this fight real? Is it happening?
I mean, there is a lot of speculation about it. I guess it probably hinges on Katie Price staying out of jail because, do you remember about a month ago she was arrested after skipping her bankruptcy hearings to get a facelift in Turkey.
So that is why she had a balaclava on.
Yeah,
I thought it was just to avoid the cameras, but it's because she had a facelift.
Yeah, she had
She
some
doesn't
more
need a
surgery.
facelift.
She's
Sorry.
she's had enough. I think she's beautiful enough as it is.
Yeah, it doesn't need.
But yeah, I don't know. It might happen. So Kate Abdo was asked about the prospect of fighting Katie Price, and she replied, "Why not? Listen, I'd fight anybody. I'd fight anybody they put in front of me." So
Right. Yeah, if I were her advisor, I would say boxing's all about this, isn't it? The whole like career trajectory thing. Like, make sure you pick the right fight. Definitely do not fight Katie Price. Don't fight anyone who does like reality TV or any of that shit. Don't fight that fucking porn star who sometimes does those fights
Ebony
either.
Bridges. Or,
Yeah. She's not a porn star, is she?
Is she? I think she does OnlyFans.
No, the one I was thinking of is
Oh,
Elle Brooke.
Elle
Yeah,
Brooke.
don't fight
Oh,
the porn
yeah.
stars.
Yeah.
Don't fight anyone who's got an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, fight a boxer.
Yeah.
That's my career advice for Kate Abdo, whose career is on a much better trajectory than mine, but just don't want to see it go wrong. Reece James has had a rough few years. He's one of the brightest prospects in English football. He's supposed to be Chelsea captain. He's been talked about as a future England captain, but he just keeps getting these hamstring injuries. And he got another one last month. That's why he's currently out. But, fortunately for Reece, Chelsea have a world-class medical team. So when he hobbled into the treatment room a few weeks ago, they would have sprung into action and fired up the cryotherapy chamber, knocked him up a stem cell smoothie, and just left no stone unturned in his recovery. But may I be the first to suggest another area of his rehab that Chelsea might want to address, and that is Reece's personal training sessions with crystal meth dealer Michael Boateng. So, Michael Boateng he's a former Crystal Palace Academy player, and he's now heading to the Slammer. He's just pled guilty after being caught with 16 kilos of meth in a raid on his Croydon flat. So that's a street value of 1.5 million.
Wow.
Sort of Breaking Bad territory, that.
Yeah.
Don't know if the quality's as good as Breaking Bad, but it's big numbers. And actually, he's had a pretty rough time of it. So he was at Crystal Palace Academy, and then he was a sort of like lower league and then non-league footballer. And while he was playing non-league, he got caught match fixing and did time. But then he went straight and became a personal trainer to Premier League footballers, including James. Actually, his client list is littered with faded English prospects. So the other clients he mentions working with, Jadon Sancho, Ryan Sessegnon, and Callum Hudson-Odoi, who, to be fair, did score a screamer the other day.
Yeah.
Against Liverpool. But, generally, there's a bit of a common theme with those players.
Yeah, that is weird.
I don't know what he's putting in those protein shakes. It's concerning. In fairness to Jadon, Ryan, Callum, and Reece, I do get the impression that Michael might have kind of oversold how much the players train with him. He basically went on a podcast after he got out of jail and was saying, like, yeah, this is my new life now, I'm going straight. and he just like mentioned some players he worked with. He said he did a bit of bodyguard work for them as well, which
Okay.
I guess he knows some tough guys probably.
I think that's probably more in line with his other
Line of work.
pastimes. Yeah.
Hopefully those are the only services he's offering.
Yeah. So personal trainer, just doing like sessions in the park with them.
Yeah, a bit of
or-
Pilates.
Yeah.
He says he's done personal training he's a personal trainer to those guys, but I don't know if he still is or how many times he did. I'm obviously not suggesting Reece James is on the meth, Breaking Bad, but yeah.
I mean, that was what Andre Agassi, his sort of get out story was that his friend spiked his smoothies or something with crystal meth.
His
right?
friend who has the most methy name ever, Slim.
Yeah.
Slim spiked his Sprite and he drank it by accident. That's what he said.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's not true. He was honking on the pipe.
If Reece ever does test positive, then he's got a great alibi.
Yeah,
hasn't he?
which he won't be doing because he hasn't been taking meth. I was looking also into the match fixing story. It's quite interesting. So I think he was the first person to be convicted for match fixing in like 50 years. He was playing for Whitehawk, non-league team, and he met with these shady Asian businessmen in a cafe at East Croydon Station. It's glamorous. You know those like station cafes that have names just like Refresh. There's like a coffee cup with steam coming off the logo. They're a bit depressing. Anyway, they gave him £367, very specific. And he agreed in
£367 for match fixing, surely.
Yeah,
that's-
well, so he basically they basically said, here's some money just to stay in touch with us, and in future would you be up for taking 2 yellow cards? So he never actually even did it.
£367, such a specific amount.
I reckon it was-
It's just like they just emptied their pockets. Just like,
So sorry, it was
just got like
coins.
I reckon there's probably another 48 pence there as well.
Maybe it was going to be 370, but
Yeah.
they had a latte in the East Croydon Station Cafe.
To be fair, I have been to that station cafe in East Croydon, and it is pricey.
Well, if you're going to
There's
Gatwick, you have to change that.
Yeah, they sell sausage rolls for £8.
So he wouldn't have even got a sausage roll.
No.
Or maybe they
Maybe he
each,
did, yeah.
maybe they each had a sausage roll and it was going to be 400 quid.
Yeah.
Anyway, he agreed to 2 yellow cards. But apparently other players got $5,000 for a red or an own goal, which is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And a sausage roll.
Yeah, I guess that's on the house. But anyway, unfortunately, what Michael didn't realise is that one of the shady Asian businessmen was an undercover policeman, and they all got busted. So he never even did the fixing, but he got done for conspiracy to, and he had no idea it was a crime. But he ended up doing 16 months in jail, and then actually he got out, and then he was caught dealing weed as well. I should mention. So they raided a weed farm and they found his fingerprints on a jar that contained some weed. So he went back to jail.
How did he get done for the crystal meth? Was that also undercover?
I imagine so.
Was Ryan Sessegnon working with the
He's
meth?
an agent provocateur. Yeah. To be fair, he's got a lot of time on his hands.
Yeah, true.
That's mean, but yeah. So anyway, he then after the weed, he became a PT to those players and a bodyguard. But then the meth took over.
Yeah.
As it does.
So while Reece James is carefully picking the crank crystals out of his berry booster, his beloved Chelsea is descending into civil war. So the co-owners, Todd Boehly and Behdad Eghbali, who's the CEO of Clear Lake Capital, who own Chelsea, are trying to force each other out, basically. So stuff keeps leaking out about their boardroom squabbles, and it kind of seems like they're briefing the press about it because of these leaks. So we often laugh about Todd Boehly on this podcast and his questionable grasp of soccer, but we always assume that when it comes to the art of the deal, he can walk the walk. A story came out last week though that slightly contradicts that. So this came from an agent who was dealing with Todd Boehly last summer, and this agent basically had lined up a £12 million transfer for his client, who's a Brazilian youngster. And it was all about to happen until Todd Boehly and Chelsea swept in at the last minute with a £14 million bid and hijacked the deal. So, this agent was shaking hands with Todd Boehly and signing the deal and was like, yeah, but Todd, why did you not just offer 13 million? That's the logical step up from 12. And Todd just replied, well, because it's bad luck.
Nice, yeah.
And Which is
Could have been a joke, but in the context of Todd Boehly,
yeah.
tempted to think he's
It's just like so you basically spunked another million out of Chelsea's transfer budget because you're superstitious, basically.
Yeah.
It is quite on brand for him.
Yeah, very.
There was more turmoil though in the boardroom last week. So the CEO Chris Jurasek left the club, and apparently Chris Jurasek was very much Egbali's appointment. There's a good story about him in Pop Bitch. So apparently he attended a fan forum last season before a game in the League Cup, and he was chatting to the fans and told them that he hoped the team would get 3 points today, which in a knockout competition is unlikely.
So do you think he literally had no idea what their next fixture was, or do you think he doesn't understand what the League Cup is? Both are bad.
Both are bad, really.
What I would say is, when I lived in New York, a lot of the locals seemed to think that the League Cup was the biggest event of the year because it's called the League Cup.
Yeah.
They thought it was like the Super Bowl of the Premier League, and the bars would be packed for the League Cup final. So I think it is possible that he thinks that you get points.
Okay.
The League Cup is the league.
Yeah, I mean, the name is quite confusing when you put it like that.
Yeah. Or alternatively, he just didn't even know what their next game was because he doesn't care. Both quite bad when you are the chief executive of a football club. Like, your job is to ultimately ensure they win that game.
Yeah.
Is that why he got sacked?
I don't know. I think it was, well, who knows, but might have been partly to do with this sort of power wrangling between Todd Boehly and Egbali.
The power struggle is going to be exciting. And Chelsea have been there before. Do you remember before Abramovich bought Chelsea, Ken Bates and Matthew Harding, who then died in a helicopter crash, the two of them were like the main shareholders, and they were in a power struggle. And it kind of ripped the club apart, I think.
Okay,
So
until Abramovich swept in.
yeah, until Abramovich basically saved them. So I think, it could get quite ugly. Because
Great.
Boehly's the chairman, and Egbali owns more of it. Boehly doesn't actually own very much of the club.
Boehly owns, I think, 37.5%.
No, I think it's less. I think his stake is 30. He owns his stake
He
three ways.
He co-owns. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was kind of the face of the deal.
Yeah, and he was basically the punching bag for us. But like, you just hear stories like the 13 million thing. Like, people regularly, whenever we do a Chelsea story, we'll get a few messages from people being like, "Oh, you're having another go at Chelsea. Like, is this an anti-Chelsea psyop?" Which, first of all, grow up. Like, we talk about all clubs like this, but also like the stories just keep coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's the soap opera that keeps on.
And don't get me
giving,
wrong, there's a
really,
lot
so.
of Schadenfreude. We're enjoying it.
Yeah.
But
Actually, one more Chelsea story for you. So obviously they signed Jadon Sancho on deadline day, which was a bit of a weird move considering they had to get rid of Raheem Sterling because they didn't have space for him, and then sign somebody else in his position. But Jadon Sancho was obviously over the moon to escape his hellish stint at Man United, and he also said that another reason he was happy to join was because, it's a quote from him, "I knew Enzo Maresca from when I was at Man City when he was with Pep," which becomes slightly harder to believe when you realise that Sancho left Man City 3 years before Enzo Maresca joined.
as he's just falsely remembered it.
Yeah. Which I quite like that being one of the reasons he decided to join Chelsea.
My main motivation.
Oh, he's such Enzo Maresca, great guy.
He always stopped me for a chat in the corridor. To give someone else.
Yeah, it's a bit like, do you remember when Michael Owen did an interview where he said that he remembered going into the Real Madrid dressing room and seeing Ronaldo, Figo and Samuel Eto'o, who played for Barcelona.
Oh, yeah.
Jadon Sancho's little misunderstanding could be another case of bald confusion. So while he was at City, they did have a academy coach called Simon Davis who was also bald. So it's possible that that's what's gone on there.
Do you think we have had quite a few cases of bald confusion recently, haven't we? We had the Lee Carsley, Thomas Gravison thing as well.
Yeah.
It's become a running thing. With our apologies to members of the bald community, but it is a bit of a running theme.
There are a lot of bald managers in the Premier League at the moment. You've got Guardiola, Maresca, Ten Hag,
Slot.
Dyche.
Going down the league a little bit, all the way, in fact. Nuno.
I wonder whether Jadon Sancho has a bit of PTSD whenever he sees Enzo Maresca from behind.
What thinks
it's Ten Hag. He's like, no, it's okay, Jadon. It's just Enzo. It's just me.
Speaking of false memories, Pep has one as well, where they were asking him about when Man United won the treble in '99, and he was like, "Oh, I remember so well. I was a little boy," and people were like, "No, you were the 28-year-old captain of Barcelona at the time," because it was at the Nou Camp.
Yeah.
Dropping down to League One for a moment, I've always been a bit dubious about Tom Brady's supposed investment in Birmingham City. So Tom Brady's obviously the legendary quarterback who retired from the NFL last year, age 42. And, you know, this consortium, this American consortium took over Birmingham, and suddenly they were saying Tom Brady's one of the owners. I strongly suspect that they just like gave him some shares and were like, can we just use your name to promote you in America? But he has actually been making the odd appearance, and Tom was down at St Andrews on Monday night for probably the biggest game of Birmingham's season, because they were playing Wrexham. It's the Hollywood derby, El Plastico. So you've got Tom Brady's Birmingham versus Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's Wrexham. Literally just saying that makes me want to be sick, but I will carry on. Yeah. And there was a lot of stardust there. So Tom sat next to David Beckham. So I don't know what his involvement is.
Yeah, boosting the Instagram likes.
Yeah, these guys are basically all bought into this vision for football that I think is even more depressing than Saudi buying clubs.
I think actually I read that Tom Brady had gone to an Inter Miami match with David Beckham a couple of months ago, so this was him sort of returning the favour in this like horrible ecosystem of
Beck's got the short straw there. Do you want to go to Miami, or do you want to be British drizzle? Anyway, Brady is used to being mobbed everywhere he goes in America, so he probably expected a quintessentially British version of that usual welcome when he got to Birmingham. You know, he's probably picturing a row of solemn beefeaters curtsying as Tom flashes his pearly whites and tosses $1 into the doffed cap of a sticky-faced urchin. I'm picturing like a little boy being like, cool, Mr. Brady, my old man reckons you're the best thing that ever happened to our little old town. It didn't quite pan out like that, though. The travelling Wrexham fans had other ideas, and they serenaded Brady with the other traditional British greeting. Brady gives them a sort of embarrassed little wave.
Yeah, he gives a little thumbs up. I think
just like, all right, guys.
Do you think he can make out what they're saying?
Yeah, I think so. But I actually think Americans kind of love that about like English football, that you come and get a bit of that like.
Yeah,
gritty, you fucking wanker. That's kind of what they want almost.
Yeah, it beats the fight and win. Fight and win.
Let's go, Seattle. I believe that we will win. Yeah. I believe that we will win. Ref, you suck. Apologies to our American listeners who we love, but you know, there's a big difference in football cultures. It was quite funny from the Wrexham fans. It is a little bit rich from them, I think. Like, their club is basically a front for a couple of Hollywood stars to flog Disney Plus subscriptions and premium gin. Like, they're probably the worst for this like influencer football model.
Yeah, I mean, it must be quite nice for the Wrexham fans to actually be able to give it back to somebody, because I imagine that is the welcome they get at every game in the National League and League Two and League One. Are
there chants that people do to Wrexham? I haven't heard any. There must be.
Yeah, I don't know actually.
I always see Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds like really handling the fans really well. It just fucking annoys me. There was a video this week of Rob McElhenney, the Wrexham co-owner, arriving at St Andrews, and he just walks into this like welcome bit, looks up at the stadium and just goes, wow, which like, you know, no disrespect to St Andrews, but it's over 100 years old, the ground, and like, it just feels really fake.
Yeah.
Like I love America. I'm pleased for Wrexham, but this cheesy, cutesy Ted Lasso carnival of American schmaltz needs to fucking stop.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it will. Actually, Brady has credentials on this front. So a couple of seasons ago, he went to Man United Tottenham at Tottenham's new ground, and he tweeted a picture of the stadium with the caption, "Here we go, Cristiano versus Harry Kane. I might fist pump if you score, Harry, but I'm riding with Man United today." It's like, fuck off. Staying in America for a second, I've got a nice story from the NFL concerning everyone's worst nightmare. Picture the scene, Zach. You're settling into a lovely shag and you accidentally sit on your phone and send your mum a video of the whole darn shooting match. I think we'd agree that is a lot of people's biggest fear. But as ESPN pundit Shannon Sharp found out this week, there is an even worse version of this for famous people, which is accidentally broadcasting your bonk to 3 million followers on Instagram Live. So Shannon, who's nicknamed Unk in America, I think like Uncle. Don't know why, but it makes it funnier. Yeah. Unk, basically, he accidentally posted this video, which fortunately for him, you can't really see anything, but you do hear like moaning throughout from a woman, and you do hear him growling the odd thing. At one point he goes, "This my ass." And there you go, baby.
There you go, baby. There you go, baby. There you go, baby. Put this dick in here. Put this dick in here.
Okay, this is. I think I've had enough. Yeah.
You get the idea. I mean, that is accidentally going on live on Instagram.
Yeah,
As George, our regular producer, often says, has anything good ever happened on Instagram Live? Further evidence. But that has got to be your worst nightmare. And you're sort of having a breathy bonk where you're talking a bit. Naturally, Unk deployed the excuse that you'd expect. He posted a statement saying, "I was hacked," which I mean, don't think anyone's ever been telling the truth when they've said that. But in fairness to Unk, he did then come clean. So he then gave an interview with a friend's podcast where he said, "My phone wasn't hacked. It wasn't a prank. It was me being a healthy, active male. I threw my phone on the bed, engaged in an activity. I've never turned IG Live on, so I didn't know how it works. And all of a sudden, my other phone started going off." He revealed later that he had 73 missed calls in 6 minutes from like his friends just being like, "Mate."
Oh, that's nice. It's good to know that you've got your mates.
Yeah, you can hear in a bit of the video, you can hear a phone vibrating, which is
that was his mum, yeah,
his wife.
Yeah.
Having 2 phones is a bit suspicious, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's
could be a work thing. Could be related to his very active sex life. I don't know, but I can safely say that is my worst nightmare. Doing that.
Yeah. To most people, Eamonn Holmes was the cuddly face of breakfast TV, cheerily shooting the shit with washed-up Big Brother contestants about their latest perfume range with Battersea Dogs Home. But Eamonn's done a bit of a heel turn in recent years, so he's ditched his cheery gig on the Good Morning Britain sofa and taken up a new role spewing right-wing bile on GB News. And, to really ramp up the villain vibes, he's now ditched his wife, the beloved Loose Women presenter Ruth Langford, for a new flame who's 20 years younger and has moved in with him just 4 months after his divorce. So, to be fair, the writing was probably on the wall for Ruth a few years back when Eamonn came home clutching an oil painting that he'd commissioned an artist to paint. So, as Eamonn unwrapped this presumably quite expensive artwork, his wife was probably expecting to see a portrait of them walking hand in hand down a County Antrim beach, or, sat by the fire with their adoring son with their dog curled up on the mat. But instead, Eamonn unveiled a painting of him alongside Sir Alex Ferguson in the Old Trafford dugout, with Fergie's arm resting on his shoulder to, symbolise their unbroken bond.
Well, a few other details I like is Eamonn's wearing a Man United tie. Whereas Fergie's in like a pep roll neck kind of thing.
I don't know, he did used to wear a coat like that.
Yeah, it's the jacket, yeah. And Fergie's like, barking instructions at Eric Jemba Jemba or something.
They had the hand on the shoulder.
Yeah,
it looks like
bond.
Eamonn Holmes is his assistant manager.
Yeah.
He's like the Carlos Queiroz role.
Do you think Eamonn Holmes just took the artist a picture of Fergie with Steve McLaren in the dugout and was like, "Can you just put my head on his body?"
Yeah, it's an incredible painting.
Do you think they ever have sat together in the dugout at a game?
They are mates, apparently.
Yeah.
So Eamonn Holmes is a big Man United fan.
You can imagine Ruth's disappointment.
She's expecting it. We can use this as, we get it printed for the Christmas card as well.
It's a bit like that in Love Actually. Is it Alan Rickman? He's like cheating on his wife, and she finds a necklace, and she thinks it's for her, Emma Thompson, and it's actually for his mistress. It's like
her just like
Ruth Langsford unwrapping the painting. Or like there's like a ring box, and she opens it, and it's just one of those like Man United key rings. All I hope his new girlfriend is a Man United fan, or it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. When he's moving into her flat, he's just got like a gym bag full of his like toiletries and a change of shirt, and just this painting under his arm.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, this will be the Man United room.
Before we leave, I've got a little dive into Jesse Lingard corner for you. I think the last time we checked in on Jesse, he was strutting through Seoul's Gangnam district with a double-length selfie stick, firing out DMs to the Korean Kim Kardashian, aka Kimchi Kardashian. So obviously he signed for FC Seoul back in January, and you'll probably remember that the fans went absolutely mental when he signed. At his first game, they had to set up a Lingard zone where fans queued for hours to pick up some J Ling's merch. The stadium, it was like the highest ever attendance in the K-League.
Sold out really. It was like a Taylor Swift
like
concert.
2 minutes.
What is the merch? It's
Uh,
a painting of him with Eamonn Holmes.
I'm picturing like you can get those little nodding dogs that sit on your dashboard. Like a J Ling's one of them.
Snow globe. Tat is the term for that.
On the pitch, though, it didn't go quite so well. So a few games in, his manager branded him lazy and told him the name value has no meaning on the pitch. Since then, though, things have picked up a little bit for Jesse. So he's got 4 goals in 18 games, which is it's probably par for the course for Jesse, really. So when he scored an equaliser at the weekend against their hated rivals Daejeon, Jesse was delighted to be able to dust off one of his old TikTok celebrations. So he did this little dance where he kind of wiggles his bum and like swings his knees from side to side. It's a very like 13-year-old on Fortnite.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't age very well. So when Daejeon scored a late winner, Kim Hyun-gu, who scored, couldn't resist doing Jesse's celebration back to him.
Really good.
It's a very
The
funny.
teammates are lapping it up.
Yeah.
I guess it's because Lingard is so famous in that league as well.
Yeah, and I mean, him doing a silly little dance to celebrate an equaliser is...
I don't know. I'm quite pro dance goal celebrations.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, they
it's
went
just
away for a bit. Brazil used to do them in the 90s, and then they went away for a bit, and obviously like video games brought them back. I quite like it.
Yeah, it is fun, but when Jesse Lingard does it, you just know that he's he can't wait to get home and check TikTok to get the DMs from his like army of 13-year-old fans.
Are you? Where do you stand on Lingard? Are you rooting for him?
Yeah, for sure.
The problem is for us, I'm really rooting for him, but when stuff goes wrong, it is a funny story. So I mean, I guess he's had a good week.
I think he's a nice man.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see? Speaking of like players abroad, Ivan Toney's had his debut in the Saudi League, I think last week, and his team won a penalty. And obviously, Ivan Toney is like amazing penalty taker, probably the best going. And unfortunately for Ivan, Riyad Mahrez is his teammate, and Mahrez insisted on taking it and missed.
Isn't Mahrez?
He's awful at pens. He kept missing them for Man City. I just love the idea that he's like, no, I'll take it. It's like, mate, you've got Ivan Toney on your team. I wonder if that was the moment that Tony's like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah. Get me back to Brentford.
He had like a farewell party. Did you see it? He did like a speech to his friends.
Yeah.
It was quite a shit speech. It was just like, come visit, I'll pay, thanks, much love, and sat down. Such a shame that he's gone there.
Yeah, it's a weird move.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all we've got time for. Cool. Thanks a lot, Zach.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening.